Hello, and welcome to Here's the Thing with Robbie and Jose, where we explore relationships through a female and male perspective. With me, as always, is the lovely Robbie.
Hello, Jose. How are you?
Hello, I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Good. So, today I'm gonna hand over the wheel.
Yes. So the topic that I came up with for today, can be a very dangerous area. So today we're going to be discussing the friend zone.
The friend zone.
In the zone, the bad zone. Now,
It's like a construction zone.
I know.
It's very dangerous.
It
People
is
can get hurt.
very, very dangerous. Now, my feelings on this, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, and maybe I'm just thinking this way because, TV and movies always portrays it as it's the guy in the friend zone. I know that girls can be in the friend zone, but would you say that it's mostly men?
Yes. And if women have it, they're very good at masking it.
So you've never had a friend that was a girl, or maybe a girl coworker that she confided in you that she was in the friend zone? Like you've never...
I had somebody once tell me that they liked me more, and that we were friends. And then she told me that she liked me more, but unfortunately I was married at the time, so that was not going to work.
Yeah, that's pretty ballsy of her to knowing that you're married to confess that to you.
Again, people get hurt. That's why it's a zone. They should put pylons and stuff around them or whatever.
Do you think that, well, I don't know for this one particular, but I've also heard stories about there are women who specifically go for married men. I know that's kind of off topic, but I'm just saying that's the challenge for them. It just seems bizarre because wouldn't you have the potential to be stuck in that friend zone more often if you're purposely seeking unavailable men?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think that's part of the allure, right? It's that forbidden fruit. You're not supposed to have it or whatever. I mean, people get into friend zones for many different reasons. Me personally, I think sometimes it could be a genuine friendship. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes one person feels more for another, and their approach is, well, if I can become friends with them first.
Yeah, but you'd say that
something can turn into something else. Guys
Right.
have that philosophy.
Yeah, so you would agree that it's mostly men that get in that friend zone.
Yeah, I think they think, me included when I was younger, that this is the best way of getting in without getting rejected too harshly.
Right. So I was going to ask you, I guess you have been in the friend zone before. You've been in that construction area. So how did you deal with that? Did you know that was your philosophy? So you went in knowing I'm going to pretend to be her friend and she's going to fall for me. That was your intention going in?
I'm trying to think if I've ever done it that way. I don't think I have. So the one time, and it was genuine friendship. We became friends. And then during the friendship, something else happened. I started feeling more.
Yeah.
And then I told her, and I was like, hey. And then she's like, no, I don't feel the same way. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I just went away. But then, 3 months later, she came looking for me and was like, yeah, I think I do like you more now, too. And then we ended up getting married. So what are you going to do?
Oh, that was, what an amazing twist at the end. I didn't expect that.
So sometimes it works. I mean, but the plan was never, let me befriend her first.
Yeah.
And then so she can find out how wonderful of a guy I am.
So that 3 months in between, what do you think that she was thinking or feel? Do you think that she was really thinking about that whole time? Did she kind of have someone else that she liked maybe in that moment and didn't say that?
Yeah, supposedly she at the time was living in a different city than where she came from. And where she came from, I think she had a boyfriend or somewhat loosely a boyfriend or whatever. And that was part of it. But I also think that, again, it started out as genuine friendship. So for me, once I realized that I had feelings for her, I took my shot because I can't torture myself that way. And that's what it felt like, torture. Being around her all the time, knowing that I had these feelings, I just did not want to do that to myself. So for me, I had to take a shot and then let the chips fall where they may. And when she rejected me, I was like, okay, I have to leave. I have to remove myself from this relationship. And I think absence sometimes makes the heart grow fonder. And then she was like, oh, maybe There was something
So
there.
for all the men out there who think that the friend zone never works out for the guy, you're here to tell them that's not true.
I'm actually, honestly, I would say that's a bad idea if your intention was, if you have feelings for a woman and you think, let me become her friend first, and that's how I'm going to get I think that is a bad idea.
I agree.
In general.
Yeah.
I think that's a bad idea. And I didn't do it that way. It just so happened that we started out as friends, and then feelings started. Because I remember specifically when it happened. We went out on because I met her at work, and it was a company function. And I don't know why, but I was like, hey, do you want to go together? And she was like, yeah. So we went together, and then we had a great time.
We go as friends.
And we went as friends.
Did you get her a corsage?
I did not get her a corsage, but I remember, I don't know if she was cold or something. I gave her my coat and my sports, my blazer or whatever. And then after that, like she went home, and then I went home, and she gave me back the jacket. And when she gave me back the blazer or whatever, excuse me, I could still, it still had her scent on it. And I was like, oh, wow. And then I was like, oh, man, I think I like her.
Again, it comes back to the scent with you. We've talked about this several times. So that scent ignited that feeling in you. You got something with smells.
There is something. I do enjoy a pleasant smell for sure.
Yeah,
I do enjoy a pleasant smell.
She's wearing that love potion number 9, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so. But I remember, like, I smelled it, and I was just like, I couldn't stop smelling it. I couldn't stop.
Aww.
And then that was the scent. And then shortly thereafter, I remember, drinking too much to get the courage up to say it.
So you're saying that sometimes you can be friends with a girl that you're not initially attracted to, and then something could happen where it changes your feelings. So I'm not saying that you weren't really attracted to her physically, but obviously if you really were, you wouldn't have started out as friends. You would have probably made it clear that you want to get with this girl.
Yeah. Like if I saw her and I was immediately attracted to her, I would have been like, hey, would you like to go out? Dinner, movie, whatever, baseball
But does that
game.
change when you take it to the workplace, though? Because that's going to change some of that.
This was back in the golden age of the 90s. So.
But I'm just saying, like, if you work in an office and you have, 100 females like on your floor or whatever, and you are immediately attracted to them because you're at work, it may not be as professional to go up to a coworker and say, hey, you want to go out to dinner? Rather than you kind of start with you being friendly, like,
I mean,
colleague.
you don't go out of the blue. Like, you don't.
But that's what I'm saying. Isn't that kind of the same thing? Because you're trying to, I don't want to say pretend, but you're trying to kind of be friends with that coworker, but knowing you're already really attracted to her.
I typically do not do that. Now, I guess it depends on what you mean by friends. There's times when I kind of fill the water out a little bit. I'm not being overly friendly, but if we're in the break room and I'm like, hey, or whatever, I'll idle conversation, right? Just to see.
Well, I'm not talking about that. I'm just saying, like, let's say you were sitting next to that person or something. And I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, you're still at work. You're still going to have to be a little bit more professional than you would be on the outside.
Absolutely. And that's why I don't recommend people date people at work, although that happens quite a bit, but I don't recommend it for that reason.
Right.
That's why with she and I, it started out as a genuine friendship and then turned into something else. But if I would have known, I probably wouldn't have done it because, again, you're working with them because they could have went all kinds of wrong.
Yeah.
And we know what that's a different show altogether.
Yes.
Office
not
relationships.
safe for work or whatever.
I mean, office relationships go wrong all the time.
Yeah.
And I don't recommend it, nor would I don't think I would ever do it again.
You know why they go wrong all the time? Because the odds of a relationship actually working out are so slim already that
the other problem with that is that at that time, right, this is the 90s. This was way before online dating. This was way before technology had caught up with everything. So the only other way to meet a person would be organically to walk up to a stranger.
Yeah.
How are you doing? Or buying them a drink, seeing them at the club or
you
seeing
don't
them at
really
a bar.
see a lot of that anymore.
Not no more, right? So, and so when you're at work, you're around these people all the time. So you see them all the time. So feelings sometimes will develop. Especially if your home life isn't good.
Yeah, but for a guy, you guys are visual creatures, so wouldn't you be, that physical attraction is going to be your first indicator that you like that person? Like, wouldn't that happen pretty early for a guy?
The physical part?
Yeah, like if you saw a beautiful woman, you're like, wow, that's a beautiful woman. And then you see her the next day in the break room and you kind of just start, oh, what kind of coffee do you like? Or I don't know.
I mean, but and I don't know, and every guy might be different. I'm not saying like, so there is attraction, right? The physical attraction. When you look at somebody, you're like, oh, yeah, like that's my cup of tea, so to speak, right? But then what ends up happening, at least for me, then you get to know them a little bit.
And then you're like,
yeah, that's not good at all.
that happens a lot too, I'm sure. It's like a little crush, you know?
I mean, yeah, but that's what I'm saying. So, yeah, you have to taper that because you don't know what I mean, you're still going to be, and I have worked with women that I don't particularly care for their attitude or how their philosophy on life, how they treat other people or any of that. But I still thought that they were attractive women. So there's that constant struggle where you're like,
Yeah.
you know, I really think you're beautiful, but at the same time, your personality is garbage and I want nothing to do with you.
I don't know. I think women are different on that in the sense of like, if you're really hot and you have that bad of a attitude and all that other stuff, that's going to make you unattractive physically to us, typically. Then I won't think you're attractive anymore, even physically. Because we're more emotional. So
You are.
So
but in general, you got to be careful with the friend zone.
Yeah.
You just have to, because it's torture on the person that has the feelings.
Yeah.
It's absolute torture.
So how often do you think that this happens where, let's say you move forward with, let's say you're in the friend zone and the girl gives you a chance and it doesn't work out and you just killed, let's say you guys had the best friendship and that's ruined. How often do you think that actually happens as opposed to people saying like, maybe they both kind of like each other, but one person's like, look, I don't want to lose what we have, and like genuinely mean that. I don't mean like they're just saying it, but like, how often do you think that happens and how tragic?
Well, so that actually is one of the possible scenarios. Sometimes what ends up happening is, you have to say it, friends with benefits.
You know, I was trying to think of that this morning. I couldn't remember that term.
No, so friends with benefits, that was a new thing. And don't get me wrong, I'm sure it always existed. Somebody just put a name on it, just like Fight Club. Everybody, it was on the tip of everyone's tongue, and then somebody just finally said it. And friends with benefits. Sometimes that actually can sometimes be a thing too, where you're attracted to somebody, right? Two people are attracted to each other physically, but they don't want to be in a relationship. So it's like their go-to, or maybe they want to be in relationships with other people. So they are technically friends. Like they hang out, they go out for drinks. They might even go over each other's house, have pizza, whatever. And it's physical, but then that's it. And then of course, sometimes it never fails. One starts having more of an emotional attachment to the other ones. But in the scenario that you're talking about, you actually gave it a shot.
Yeah.
Right? You went through and you were in a relationship and you're like, no, I don't like this. I think it depends on if you're both in agreement that it's not going to work, but you don't want to lose that friendship. I do know people that have become friends after. So they dated for a while. They gave it a shot. Didn't work out. They're still good friends to this day.
Yeah, if it didn't work out for normal reasons and not something really tragic, like something that, whatever. And I think I just remembered, what I was thinking of was booty call. I think that's what I was trying to think of. But anyway.
It is the same thing, yeah.
But I mean, like, I don't know. I guess I feel like if you have a strong friendship with someone of the opposite sex and maybe that feeling kind of creeps in a little bit, you really need to evaluate the friendship, because if the friendship is so awesome that like, even if you don't want to take that chance. You know what I mean? To me, it's not worth it to lose if you have something amazing with a friend.
Oh, I completely.
I don't know if I would try.
Yeah. And I would say, because I've had a lot of female friends throughout the years, it's absolutely the best. I've been accused of being in touch with my feminine side, and I attribute that to all the female friends that I've ever had. And of course, I was in a house at one point with 3 women, right? So there's my mom, my 2 older sisters. So you pick up a few things here and there.
Yeah.
You hear them talk about, boys and this, that, and the other. And And when you have a female, when you get the female perspective, which is what I really crave, and men really need that.
Yeah.
Because it's interesting. I've had conversations with guys, and I know exactly where they're coming from. And sometimes I'm like, yeah, but girls don't like that. Or, you know, it's just, it's so interesting that we're all human, but women and men to a certain degree are built differently, just emotionally. Now, I will say this. I think every man has a feminine side, and I think every woman has a masculine side. Whether or not you're in tune with that, that's a whole nother thing. I mean, and we're just labeling it that, but what we call masculine and feminine, excuse me, are just like tendencies.
Yeah.
We're all human. Right, we guys have emotions too, even though they like to think that we don't.
Yeah.
We do, and we do feel things deeply. It's just we sometimes don't like to talk about it as much, and we just don't like to because we're afraid.
Yeah.
I mean, really, honestly, like you don't. And so, if you're with, let's say you're married, right, and you have a female friend, but you feel like you can't tell your wife certain things because she might take it wrong, you might be able to pass it by her first and be like, okay, this is what I'm thinking.
How would you react?
Exactly. And then she could give you tips on, how to soften the blow or come at it a little more diplomatically, let's say. So that's where the benefit is. But again, you're right. You got to be careful because as you're confiding in this person,
Didn't Usher have a song about that? What was it?
I don't know where you pull out these chestnuts from, but I don't remember.
I heard it on the radio just again the other day. He was like, you got a girl, but your friend makes you want to leave. Oh, I think it's called Wanna or something like that. But
oh, that Usher.
Yeah, Usher. He knew. But what about like for an instance where, let's say you have that conversation. Okay, so you're the guy and you go to your friend. You're like, hey, like, I'm catching feelings for you. And she politely declines. Well, I guess first, actually, what's the best way to say no in that scenario? Because you are very vulnerable at that point in time when you're expressing your feelings. You don't know how the other person's going to take it.
Right.
How would you want to be told nicely?
I think first you do have to, and for me, whenever I told, the girl at the time, I was like, well, I'm very flattered, which I was. But then it's like,
but you had an easy out because you were married.
I did have a super easy out. And I don't know that I would have dated her anyways, even if I wasn't married.
That's what I'm saying. Like you had an easy out, but let's say you weren't married and you what you just said, you don't want to be with her. So like, I don't know.
What's funny about that, that one caught me off guard because I can't imagine anybody would be attracted to me, period.
I think a lot of guys feel that same thing. They're like, why would anyone?
Exactly. Because here's the thing. Okay. And this is what's so amazing about that, right? From when it happens to a guy, is that when you have a female friend that is just a friend and you're not attracted to her in that way, you can be yourself. Like I'm not saying that you're like, being vulgar or anything like that. But for the most part, you can be yourself and not feel judged, which is awesome. Which, again, guys, so going back to guys don't like to talk to women about, or their partners about certain things because they feel like they're going to get judged for whatever they're going to say.
Yeah.
But when you have a friend, they're not judging you. So you can say whatever you want to them, and there's no repercussion of them leaving you, right? Because they're your friend.
Right.
Friends stick around.
Right.
Like if you tell your spouse something or whatever, they're going to get mad. Like if you have a female friend, you can tell her, yeah, I saw this beautiful woman the other day. She was gorgeous. Couldn't keep my eyes off her. She had a red dress. I didn't do anything, but I'm just telling you that I can say that to my female friend. I can't say that to my wife.
Right, but why wouldn't you just tell a guy friend that? Like what I'm talking about, something specifically that you would want to say to a woman and not your guy friends, because like that instance with the other girl, you could just tell your guy friends that's the same thing.
I could, but that's why I'm saying you almost put them in the same category because they're friends. The female and the male have nothing to do with it. The only benefit of having a female friend, as far as I can see, is that you can run things by her from a female perspective. But if you're friends with somebody, you're bullshitting, you're having fun, you're just kind of BSing, you're enjoying, you're just giggling, laughing. It's like anybody else.
Yeah.
It's like, you can be in the same room with all your male friends and her, and it'd still be the same.
Yeah.
I mean, you might have to be a little more courteous because, she's still a woman, and, you don't want to get too crass, but, it's okay. It's all right. So, yeah. I would probably tell a male, and the male friend would probably understand it. The female would probably give a different perspective. And sometimes you tell them just to see what they think about that. And it's just interesting to hear that point of view.
Yeah.
It's fascinating to me. But again, you can't say that. Or let's just say specifically, let's say you have a female friend and you're married and you're like, I saw that beautiful woman in a red dress. I wish my wife would wear things like that more. And I'm not trying to say anything bad, but it's just like I see that and I'm attracted to that.
So
and
you're going to ask the friend, how do I tell my wife that I wanted to start dressing this way?
Or if it's even a good idea to even bring it up in the first place.
Well, the way you just said it, no.
Exactly.
Hey, honey, I saw a gorgeous woman in a red dress. Why don't you dress like that? 'Cause I was really turned on by her. But you got sweatpants mode.
Right, of course. And you want to be gentle, but that's absolutely.
Yeah.
But I'll give you an example. If it was a dude and a dude came up and he was wearing jorts, right? I'd be like, dude, what are you doing? So you see what I'm saying? Like you can clown on him and he was probably going to clown back or whatever, but he's not going to take it to heart. So it's different, right? But when you're in a relationship, you can't say it that way. So men, because we're in that mode, we would say something like that because we think, okay, the direct approach is the best approach, which is not always the case. It is maybe when you're talking to another dude, perhaps.
Yeah.
But with a female, not so much. And even if you do come with a direct approach, you got to be very careful because she might come back with the direct approach as well.
Yeah.
Which is not something. So you want to soften it. You want to make sure that everything, like I said, you can't say that to. So she would probably give you tips, like you said, don't do it that way. Or maybe don't do it at all. Or, maybe do this, maybe do that. And then, it's served me well.
Yeah.
To run it by
Yeah.
the female.
I can see that. But my point that I was trying to make earlier before I asked the additional question, but like, what if you say your feelings and she says, I'm sorry, thank you, but I'm not interested. And then the guy won't let it go. Like he won't, like if he decides to stay in the friendship and he kind of keeps on it, like he won't accept it. What does the woman,
Well, you would have to, like, let's say it happened, right? And I think this is how I've had it done to me too. But essentially they would say, I'm flattered. Unfortunately, I don't feel the same way. If you want, we can continue to be friends. But just so that we're clear, it's only going to be friends if that's the relationship that you want to have with me. Once you establish that boundary, then you're good to move forward. Now, if he can't give it up and he keeps on insisting and keep on trying, at some point you're going to
ruin the friendship anyway if you keep doing that.
You're just going to be like, I'm done with it. I can't do this anymore, and I have to. I'm sorry, I just can't be your friend anymore at all. Period. Point blank. And so, that's the end of the friendship. That's the end of any potential. It's done. It's over with.
Do you think that maybe this would seem kind of awkward, and I know you tease me about this, but do you think that maybe when you start a new friendship with someone of the opposite sex, you make it clear in the beginning?
It helps.
Like, I know that's awkward, but like, if you establish that like really early on, like, no, it will never be. So don't even like.
Yeah, if you could do that for sure, I would definitely do that. I would definitely, absolutely.
How would you, as a man, take that information if you heard a female say that?
For a man, again, if I have no emotional attachment to this person and it's freshly new relationship, friendship, or whatever, I wouldn't take it hard at all. If anything, I would appreciate it because I'm like, okay, cool. We're establishing what this is. And so because we're establishing it, like, I understand, like, this is the way, like, she's basically put a boundary and said, we're going to be friends and it's never going to go any further than that. Like, sweet, cool, absolutely. Like, that's perfect. Because, and this is just me, cool, because there's plenty of fish in the sea. And for me, it's like you get much more out of a friendship. I'm not saying relationships are bad, right? Relationships and romantic relationships, they can be wonderful. They can be just absolutely the best thing that ever happened. But a friendship is much different.
Yeah.
It's much, much different because there's not so friendships can be more honest with one
Yeah,
another.
the pressure's off.
Right. Because it's like, I can be honest with you. I can be my true self and you're still going to hang out with me. That's why you're my friend. We don't even always have to be friendly towards one another. That's the other beauty part.
Yeah.
And so because it's a different kind of an emotional attachment than a romantic one, because romantic, there's way more expectations. I'm going to need you to open up the doors for me. I'm going to need you to pull out flowers. When you come over, you better look a certain way. Like, you better treat me a certain way. I want you to, you know, treat me like a romantic partner. With your friendship, you don't have to do that. You just see them whenever you see them.
Yeah.
You don't have to bring them roses. You don't have to do any of that stuff. Like, it's wonderful. It's fantastic. You can talk shop. You could just, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
But romantic is like, okay, now it's Valentine's. I got to get her something. I got to do this. It's our anniversary. It's her birthday. And don't get me wrong, you do that with friends too. But again, there's not so much pressure.
Right. I think that's the whole point of having friends is you have these people close to you in your life, but you're not obligated to do anything. You don't have to be friends with anyone. If you're friends with them, it's only because you want to, and that's it.
Exactly right. And when you're in a relationship, you're like, let's say you start having doubts and you're like, oh, I don't know if I want to be with this person.
Yeah.
Like, you know that most people don't go forward with breaking up because they're like, okay, I'm going to lose it all.
Yeah.
Whereas in a friendship, it doesn't work that way.
Right.
Even if you have a fight, it doesn't matter. So long as you still respect each other and you know, as long as you don't go overboard with the argument or the disagreement, whatever, you're still going to be friends, and they're still going to be a part of your life. You're still going to be able to hang out. It's a much different vibe.
Yeah. Or, I mean, if you don't want to be friends with someone, it's not as messy to kind of leave that friendship. You know what I mean? I mean, I'm not saying that there's no hurt feelings, but you kind of touched on something that I was thinking about too when you were talking about being able to talk to your friend about things that you wouldn't talk about with your significant other. And I was thinking like even like really unattractive things, you know, really gross. I don't know, like well, I can't think of something particular, but like, you know, you can be a little bit more open. Okay, let's say you and I are friends. If you passed gas in front of me, it wouldn't mean anything. I don't care. I mean, I care, but like,
Better care.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not, there's nothing, but I'm saying like even conversations, like, maybe you want to have a conversation about the girl you saw in the red dress, right? But maybe you want to get a little bit deeper than just saying she was attractive. Yeah. You still have the urge to say that. And again, you can have those kind of conversations, but not even just that, but even like things that maybe you're a little bit embarrassed about, things that you wouldn't feel comfortable telling your spouse, even though if you've been married for a long time, but maybe you have an embarrassing childhood story that you think about all the time and you just want to tell someone close to you, but you would feel like you were talking about judged by your significant other. So there's a lot of freedom in what you can talk about. And even with the feelings, like if you get into a fight, it's not that you're not hurt, but you kind of like, okay, it's just a fight. It's nothing. We'll get over it unless it's something really bad.
Right. Exactly. Unless if they go overboard, then yeah, for sure. But when you're in a friendship, again, you're not going to break up. You're just going to be upset for a little bit and then you're going to go back. But in a relationship, a romantic relationship, especially if it's not working out, you know that the chances of you becoming friends afterwards, especially if you've been in a relationship for a while.
Oh, yeah.
Let's say 6 months to a year, and one person strongly feels more for another, there's no way you can be friends. You're done. As far as that is concerned, you're done. Which is the problem that I had with my very first girlfriend. It's kind of the same thing. We didn't start out as friends, but it kind of, right? So we started talking on the phone, and it was like 6 months before I ever met her. So I got to know her. There was no physical part, and there was no visual. I didn't see her or anything, so I got to know her. So over the years, we got really comfortable, and then it turned into a romantic relationship. For me, after the breakup, I didn't want to be with her anymore in a romantic, but I remember I missed the friendship part of it. Because I was like, I can't talk to her anymore. She knows some of my most intimate details of my life, and I can't talk to her anymore. That's the part that hurts. And I wish that when people would break up that they could still be friends, but I know that that's not the way the world works. But you think about that. You've invested a lot of time and energy into that romantic relationship, and then you break off, you break up. you can't talk to them anymore.
Yeah.
And they know everything. So now you got to start a new relationship with another person, bring them up to speed on whatever's going on in your life.
You're like, I've already told this story before, but I have to say it again.
Right.
Now.
Like you have to give some context. You can't just go into, like, oh, I've been having a problem with this coworker. Like there's a lot of history behind that.
Yeah.
And your previous partner knew all about it.
Yeah.
This new person knows nothing about it.
Yeah, I've had exes that come back to me in certain circumstances and said that same thing of like, if we were together for a long time, they'd be like, well, we know each other better. Like, I just want to talk to you. I want you in my life at some capacity. Like, fine, you don't want to be with me, but like, it's almost like if you're together long enough, it feels like they're family. And so like, yeah, I mean, it's really hard because, and even that same connection, you won't have that exact same connection with someone else.
No.
So even if you do get deep with someone else or become really close friend wise, romantically, whatever, it's still not going to be the same.
It was different because it's especially like with my first girlfriend, she knew me during a teenager, when I was a teenager, right? Through the ages of, I think 13 all the way up into my 20s.
So like the worst parts.
The worst part of that's absolutely right. So she knew everything that was going on in my life at that time, right? All the stuff that was going on with my parents and this and that. Like she just knew it all.
Yeah.
So I remember after we broke up, I felt super sad because I was like, I can't talk to her anymore.
Yeah.
Like that part of it is gone. Like,
yeah.
But, and with her, unfortunately, like, even years afterwards, I didn't want to be a stalker about it, but I do remember like looking her up, and unfortunately things didn't work out well for her. And I felt bad because I felt like, yes, I don't want to be romantically involved with you, but I just feel like I wish I could have helped you a little bit. You know what I mean? I know it's inappropriate now because she's moved on and so was I, but you just feel like I wish I could do something for them because I hate to see them suffer, even though we're not boyfriend, girlfriend anymore or whatever, but like you just don't want to. You never want to see your friends hurt at all. Yeah. And you still consider them a friend. It's just they were a girlfriend.
Yeah. I think that's why like certain breakups will hit you harder because it is, I mean, like if a friendship doesn't work out, like I said, there's going to be some hurt feelings, but it's not as bad. But let's say that you are with someone so romantically you love this person and then you guys have the best friendship. When you lose both of them at the same time, I think that some breakups, they're really hard because of what you're saying. It's like you're having to give up all the relationship stuff, which sucks, but then you're losing this friend and you know that you'll never be with them again. And it's just, I can imagine it's even harder. That breakup is going to be more, for you to deal with.
I mean, yeah. You know, what's funny is that, like, let's say you have a friendship, right? And let's say it's a male-female relationship, whatever. But it's just a friendship. The interesting part about that is that, let's just say for whatever reason, that relationship dies down, right? And then you don't speak to them could be 5 years.
Yeah.
The next time you see them, you're still going to be like, hey, what are you doing? And like, you're going to embrace each other. And you're still like, yeah, you weren't as close as you once were, but you were like, there was no hard feelings. It just for whatever reason faded.
Right.
You can't do that with exes.
No. They run when they see you somewhere.
You can't be like,
hey. You're like, oh my God, there's my ex.
Yes, exactly.
They run and hide.
And if you have somebody, if you're with your partner at the time, or you're not, and they are, again, it's awkward, right? Yeah. Or it's just inappropriate. I wouldn't even say awkward because I don't get awkward anymore, but it's inappropriate. And you can't just like, hey, how you doing? How's life been? You can't. Because in most cases when you break up, it's because something, I don't know. I mean, people break up for different reasons, but regardless, you've just told that person, I do not want to be with you anymore.
Yeah.
And some people don't take that too well. They're like, oh, they get bitter and, they're upset because, they did like you or whatever. Regardless of which one of those you are, it's still, it's like, if you're quitting a job, you can't just go, screw you, man, and walk out.
Yeah.
You could, but you're never going to work at that place ever again, right? So it's better to be like, hey, okay, I'm leaving. It's on good terms. You don't want to burn any bridges sort of thing. But
Well, I think it's kind of implied that the majority of the time that the guys are in the friend zone, it's because he's a quote unquote nice guy. Nice guys finish last, all that. We have all those sayings. Well, I was talking to a gentleman yesterday about this topic, and he was saying that from a guy's perspective, he was saying like, okay, if you friend a woman and, you know, you see her go through all these bad boys, right? She's like, that's what she's attracted to. And maybe you do say your feelings. And then she's like, I'm sorry, I just see you as a friend. But he knows, like, eventually, because that whole thing where we date all the jerks and whatever, that passes, right? At the end of the day, you're going to want a nice guy who's going to be there for you and be a good husband and blah, blah, blah. So that guy was saying, like, you know, he was like, well, that means like they're settling. That guy was saying it's not, settling doesn't always have to be a bad thing.
No.
You know what I'm saying? And and that was like an interesting perspective for me, because the way guys sell it is that settling is bad, which I get the reasons why. But if I'm 21 and I want to date a bunch of loser jerks because that's, you know, what you want to do or whatever, and I have like this nice guy friend, you know, eventually if I'm like, you know what, I'm kind of over this, let me try something for real, and I go to my friend, that doesn't mean, I wouldn't feel like I'm just settling. Settling means that you don't have any other options, maybe, and you're just like, well, I don't like this person at all, but no, I don't have anyone else.
So I think what ends up happening is, right, the version of our ideal partner is almost entirely unrealistic, right? Because it's like, from a guy's perspective, right? We want a girl that's absolutely beautiful, cooks and cleans, doesn't bother us whenever we're watching TV. You know what I mean? Like, you know, is a lady, but also, you know, when you're intimate is, you know, more adventurous, let's say. Like, you build these things out, right? But it's unrealistic. And so then what ends up happening is, that's the bar, right? And you set that bar that high, anything else is going to be settling. Like, yeah, you know what I'm saying? So like, in that situation, when a guy does that, it's like, no, you're never going to find that ever. I'm sorry. It's just, and if you do, God bless, because you're one of the lucky few. And I'm not saying that women out like don't exist, but they're probably already taken. Of that, I can almost guarantee you, because what you described is loyal and this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if you're going to look at it from that standpoint, yes, anything else aside from that is settling, which is not really a good way of looking at that.
Yeah.
For me personally, I've kind of learned that you do have deal breakers, and I think you should stick with your deal breakers. If, like, let's say you don't want to be in an abusive relationship, right? He could be all those things, but then if he's abusive, I'm sorry, it's just not going to work out. Right. Unless you're into it, you know, again, I don't know. If it works for you, supposedly, you know what I mean? Like, different strokes for different folks, as they used to say. But me personally, I don't think that's very healthy. And, you know, like, nobody, I don't think, should ever be in an abusive relationship. But again, it's I would say for me, that's what you started out when you're in your 20s. This fictitious person that doesn't exist. I don't know if women do that. I'm assuming that they did. They do. They're like, I want a guy that's this and this and this and wants to talk and dresses well, doesn't wear polo shirts.
That is on the list.
I'm sure it is. And you do all that. And then, of course, most men don't fit that bill.
Yeah.
And so now what do you do, right? My point being is that for men, when I was younger, maybe that's what I was looking for. Now, looks are still important because I'm still a dude, but that's not the only thing.
Yeah.
And so for me, the way she treats me, the way she interacts with me and my family, the way we interact, the conversations that we have, all of it, that seems to be much more important, because companionship at some point becomes way more important than the physical attraction.
Do you think that you can have a truly successful marriage if you are not friends with that person? Like, if it's just a straight romantic, nothing more than that? Do you think that would be...
I guess we would have to define, like, what is friends? Because let's say you're an extrovert and the other person's an introvert. It could still work. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, it could still work. You can still be friendly or whatever, but like, one person's going to want to be out more and be outgoing and be in more social events, and the other person not so much. But if it works, it works.
Yeah, but you're talking about like two different interests. I'm not talking about that. I'm saying, like, there is a different vibe when you are in a relationship with someone that you truly are also friends with. It's different. Yeah. What I'm saying is, do you think you could have a truly successful marriage if you do not have a, like, friendship with your partner?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I guess it depends on the type of friendship. Because I was just doing interest, but like, what would
Yeah.
you define that? Like, what does that look like to you?
I don't know, or maybe you can be more yourself. I think, you know what I mean? There's, like we talked about, the relaxation of having that friendship, right? If you're strictly romantic, you may feel that you can't really be yourself because you're worried about what they're going to think of you. So maybe
Right.
you're going to be a little bit more reserved with, you know, if you want to be goofy or whatever, things that you would do in a relationship with someone that you were friends with also.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. When you're in a romantic relationship, there's boundaries that you can't cross.
Yeah.
If I'm hanging out with a female friend and I see a beautiful woman walk by, I can be like, "Wow, did you see that? Did
Yeah.
you see her? Like how she was rock?" I can't say that to my romantic
Yeah,
partner.
but you can still have a friendship with your romantic partner.
You can.
Right.
But that's what I'm saying. Like I remember one time when I was, and I've heard this from a couple of different people, is like, so I remember we went to Mexico and it was with my ex-wife's parents or whatever, or grandparents, and they were out there. Well, the grandmother didn't particularly care for seafood, but the grandfather did. So she would cook the seafood for them. And she was like, I don't like it. I can't stand it, but I know they do it. So I'm going to cook it for them. That's love. So I think you need love. Friendship would be great if you can have that. I don't know that that was friendship. I think that was more love. Like she loved them so much that she was going to act. Because friends won't do that. You know what I'm saying? I don't care.
Yeah, but in a romantic relationship, you have love plus the friendship.
Yeah.
So wouldn't you be able to do that anyway?
I think like, so friendship, I guess, in a relationship, in a romantic relationship, to me, what that looks like is spending time together, right? Like, that's why I use the events, because you will have to spend a significant amount of time together doing events. And it doesn't need to be out and about. Maybe you're at home. Maybe you're both reading books together. Maybe you're playing a board game together. Maybe you're watching a movie together. Again, you can do that with them. But when it comes to, okay, there's differences now. That person likes to be outgoing. I'm not so much. That's where things, but you're still friends, right? It depends, right? So that's what I'm saying, because here's the other thing. When you're in a relationship, many times you want to talk to your partner. I think like one of the things that I've heard from women is that women say, nah, I don't like it if my man has a female friend. Like I don't like that at all, because she's just trying to angle and get in there, whatever. Like she's trying to steal my man.
Yeah.
She's a homewrecker, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, let's look at that for a second. The correct question you should be asking yourself is, why is it that your husband, partner, whatever, is looking to talk to another woman about something? And to me, what that indicates to me is that there are things that he wants to say to his wife that he knows he can't bring up to his. I'll give you an example. So let's say your wife comes home. It's been a long day. She starts telling you about Judy at work. You know, Judy, I can't stand Judy. Judy's always doing this, that, and she comes home and she starts telling you that. And it's like, okay, cool. You hear them out and it's like, okay, fine, you know, like you be supportive or whatever, right? So when you have a problem, if you do the same thing and you come home and you talk about your coworker, if you do that every day or whatever, at some point she might be like, I don't want to hear that. I've had my own rough day. I've had my own things that I don't want to hear about your problems. And so a guy will just stop. Or what's even worse is that if you tell something and you're vulnerable towards your romantic partner and they weaponize that and they throw that back in your face at some point when they're arguing or whatever, that husband is going to shut down. He's going to say, okay, two things. She doesn't want to hear about my day because she's had her own bad day. So I need to be supportive of her, which I am, but I'm still human. Second thing is I can't be vulnerable with her, because the moment that we get into a fight, she's going to use that as a weapon and she's going to try to hurt me with it.
Yeah.
And so you've done those two things. So, but you're still human. So you still need to release and purge all those feelings. You need to talk to somebody. You go talk to your male dudes or your male friends, excuse me, they're going to be like, okay.
Yeah.
They probably won't care either. You know, not that they don't, whatever, but guys are just different. They'll be like, all right, we'll have a beer and, you know, get over it. You know what I mean? Like, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
But then you go to the female friend and she's all ears, man. She'll listen to everything and she'll be sympathetic. She's not going to throw it back in your face. She's not going to, because she's your friend.
Yeah.
She's not a romantic partner. Romantic partners tend to do that. I think that's the number one, I would say, thing that people do that they should not do, which is when somebody's being vulnerable, especially a man, and he's telling you an intimate secret. It doesn't matter what it is, even if it's the silliest, goofiest thing that you could ever hear.
Yeah.
The moment that you weaponize and throw it back in his face, he's done.
Yeah, that's just bad practicing.
It's
nobody should do that.
But that's what ends up happening. So then he starts talking to the female friend.
Yeah.
She's supportive. She's listening to everything. She's hanging on every word.
She's got on a red dress.
I mean, you're like, this is wonderful. Like, thank you for being supportive. I need that. You know, every boy, their mother is their first love, for sure. Like, you love your mother. That's the first woman that you're introduced to.
Yeah.
That's the template for every other woman that comes in there. I'm not saying that you're going to compare them, but it's like, that's the first that you ever had. Like, everybody has a first. If the first time you ever had cake and it was amazing, you're going to compare it to that every single time, right?
Yeah.
So mother, you spend a lot of time with them, so you need that compassion. And when you marry somebody or in a relationship, and that other woman has problems too, and she's not as receptive, and she doesn't hear you out because she's got her own things, like she doesn't want to hear your problems.
Yeah.
It's like guys understand that, but we're gonna go and find somebody that does. It's as simple as that. Women do it too, mind you. I'm just using the male perspective, but you hear about it all the time.
Oh yeah.
And most of the time, well, back in the day, anyways, it was more like, well, the woman's been neglected, and it's like that's why she cheated. And it's like, okay, but the men get neglected too. And I'm not here to justify either one of them, but the point being the same. If you neglect your partner, especially in the emotional part, don't be surprised if they go and try to find a friend that they just want a sympathetic ear.
Yeah, but I feel like most women, not all, I know women do it too, but most women, if I had a guy friend come to me and tell me about their relationship woes or whatever it is, my mind isn't going to go to, okay, how can I make this where I can get with this guy? Guys, on the other hand, they're hawks waiting for that perfect time to swoop down and just be like, exactly.
Hawk.
So like, but
Bird of prey.
it's like, it's messed up. Like, I get why it's easier, right? But I mean, there are men who are like buzzards, really, like swarming around waiting to swoop in on those kinds of situations that you just said.
Well, I will say this, right? I will say this. So the way we're built differently, men and women, right? Like I was telling you, men have the emotions too. We just don't necessarily know how to deal with it. And especially when listening to other people's problems because, well, and I don't know what the younger generation, but my generation is, you just suck it up and move on.
Yeah.
Stop complaining because nobody cares. You just get going with life. Yeah, you had a bad day. Sorry. TS, right? I don't know what to tell you. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to hear you crying. That's the mentality that we had, right? Women, on the other hand, are sometimes a little more emotional. They know how to express their feelings, even if they don't exactly know what they're saying. They just need to get it out. They need to purge it. So what I would say is that women, it's easier, I think, that sometimes, like you're right, when a man is talking to a female, even if it's a coworker, maybe they're not that close of friends, but he just needs to tell somebody, another female, because he doesn't want to hear the other guy say, dude, just suck it up.
Yeah.
So he talks to her. When a woman does that for a man, you're right, because men are not naturally built that way.
Yeah.
They're just not. They're just not. Now, if you need it, because we're built in such a way that we need to fix it. And so when I talk to a female, she's not going to try to fix my problem. She might give me some tips on what I could do and maybe even give me the perspective of a female, but she's not necessarily going to fix it. She's just going to give me some ideas to kind of, think about for a while.
Right.
A man, if you go to a man with a problem, he's going to want to fix it.
Yeah. Because that's how you deal with all things.
Exactly. So if they're listening, like really attentive, either A, they're just more evolved, or they're in touch with their feminine side, or in most cases, like you said, they're just like, okay, I know that this is the path to where I want to get.
That's terrible.
So I have to listen to, but we're just not built that way.
Yeah.
In general, or again, if you come to a problem and say, "Hey, my car's not starting" or whatever, and the guy knows cars, he's like, "Oh, well, you came to the right guy. Let's go outside. Let's take a look." And he starts, doing this, that, or, "Oh, my garbage disposal broke down." He's like, "Oh, well, did you try to hit the reset button? Did you try to do this? Did you try to clean it? Did you try to turn on?" That's what we do.
Yeah.
But again, I think females in general, they're not looking for that. I think it depends too. I think this is especially when your female partner is talking to you, you really need to, and maybe you should just ask, but for a guy, we have to be very careful because we don't know if you're telling us this because you want us to fix it, or if you're telling us this because you just want us to hear you out. You're just looking for a sympathetic ear.
Yeah.
And that's where you're not sure. Because if you try to fix it, sometimes it ends up being the reverse. It never works out.
So do you think that women should establish that in the beginning before we tell you something? Like, hey, I'm going to tell you this thing and I need a solution, or I just want you to listen and nothing more?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I think once you do that, it makes our job easier. Because otherwise we don't know what you want.
Yeah.
Because, and I think females do that with each other too, and you guys don't say it. Because I think, so I'll give you an example. A girl goes up to another girl and starts complaining about her boyfriend. My boyfriend's garbage. He doesn't do this. He doesn't do that. He doesn't, he neglects me. He does this. The other female says, drop him. No, but you don't get it.
Like she just wants to say it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the other female might be more practical. She might be thinking, well, just dump him. Like, what are you wasting your time?
I've never said that to a friend when she came to complain. That's never been my answer. Girl, just break up with him. Like,
Well, even if you don't put it that way, girls are way more diplomatic. So you might say something like, you could do better. Have you considered, whatever the case may be, right? But again, the worst thing that you could do is start talking bad about him, because then she's going to start immediately defending him, which just reinforces that relationship. So sometimes you just have to hear him out. But at some point, let's say she keeps on complaining over and over and over, I'm assuming a woman eventually is going to try to fix it at some point, right?
Yeah.
Even if she doesn't say that, but let's say after the 20th time, maybe you might say,
maybe
hey,
after 20 times, you'd be like, girl, you need to dump that guy.
Yeah, you might want to reconsider your relationship with this guy, because I don't think it's working out the way you like it, unless you're enjoying this back and forth and this feeling of neglect and whatever. Like, I don't know what to tell you at that point.
Two things could happen in that scenario. What you just said of the woman's going to automatically start defending her boyfriend, husband, whatever. Or if you're the friend and you're kind of mirroring what she's saying, it's going to give her maybe the confidence or whatever. Or maybe she's like, you know what? Yeah, you're right. Because in your mind, you're like, another person's saying it too. So maybe I should leave this person, when maybe you don't really want to. Maybe you are just venting, or there's kind of one thing that you vent about a lot, but it's not that big of a deal. It's not a deal breaker. So like having someone be like, oh yeah, that's really messed up, and I can't believe, it kind of hypes you up a little bit to kind of go back to the person and be like, you know what? They're right. Even though they're just mirroring what you said. Yeah. I mean, you know what I mean?
I as a guy, if my female partner, right? If established that at the very beginning, it's like, look, I need to tell you something. I'm not looking for a fix. I'm not looking for solutions.
Yeah.
I just need to just vent for a little bit. It's like, all right, baby, what you got?
Yeah.
And then, listen, pay attention. I'm not saying just kind of stand there with a blank face.
Yeah.
You have to interact and you have to ask the right questions, but she wants to get it out. And most of the time, if she is looking for a solution, she can actually find it while you're talking to them. And they're like, oh, okay, like it's clicking. Like you said, if you mirror it and she hears it back, like, oh, well, maybe I can go this way, or maybe I can. Now, if she says, hey, I have this problem, I need your thoughts to kind of brainstorm. It's like, okay, I got you.
Yeah.
Let's have that conversation. Right?
But I think most long-term relationships, you kind of learn that early on. So like when I've been in long-term relationships, you come to a point where you don't have to establish that. They know that you just wanting to vent, and that's it. They know that over time. But
I think it's intuition, but I think
Well, it's just a learned behavior too, because like maybe the first couple of times you try to fix it and your girlfriend says, no, I don't need you to fix it. I just want you to listen. You only really need to be told that a few times when then you're going to start like, oh, okay, if she's complaining about Judy, then like she just wants to complain and that's it.
But the problem with that is, let's say she does that all the time. And then one time she comes home and complains about Judy and just like tells you or asks you, what would you do?
Yeah.
Now you're like, oh, well, I wasn't thinking about a solution. I was just thinking about listening.
Guys don't think like that, because when people tell me things, I'm already thinking of all the different scenarios in my head.
If you're having an emotional situation, and I know that you're not looking for me to fix anything, you're just having an emotional situation. I know my job is to be there and supportive of you.
Right, but it doesn't cross your mind to think of a solution for later on?
Not even a little bit.
Okay, women do that naturally, is my point.
Men do too, but I don't.
Oh.
men are already thinking of that, but that's what I'm saying. Because they can't help but help themselves.
But you should, though, right? You should, even if you're not ready to deliver that, you should have maybe that solution in there when it comes to the point in time where maybe she does say, babe, what would you do? You already have that at the ready.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If we establish the conversation early on, say, look, I just need to vent. I got my mindset to, okay, I'm going to be emotionally available for her and supportive of her.
Gotcha.
Now, because if you're not, let's say she did something. Let's say she's telling you what you did, or she was interacting with Judy, and you know she made a mistake. You can't tell her that because she needs your emotional support. She doesn't need you to dissect it, because there's been times when I've had a conversation with my partner, and she was like, yeah, and then I did this, and then she did that. And I was like, ooh, in my head, you shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
But you can't tell her that.
Unless she says, what do you think? And then you say, you should have done that.
Perhaps.
And then they get mad at you anyway.
But that's what I'm saying, because you're on their side,
yeah.
which is another reason why female friends are better, because they will, friends in general, because they will call you out on that.
Yeah.
And you know that if they're your friends, it comes from a place of love.
Right, rather than judgment.
Well, and here's the problem with a romantic relationship is that they do love you, but they also know which buttons to push to hurt you if they want to, right? Friends, in most cases, because there's no romantic, so it's all voluntary, right? It's like, I want to be with you. I like hanging out with you. You're an imperfect person, but I still want to hang out with you. So when they tell you stuff, you can say, hey, you might have handled that a little bit. Like, I don't know if you should have done that. I get that you were upset. If they're real friends, then they'll open up and perk their ears, because it's like, okay, is she jabbing me because she's like, again, a romantic partner? She's like, are you saying that to, make me mad? Are you trying to piss me off? When you do it to a friend, that's not where they're coming from, because they're your friend.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because your romantic partner might be mad at you because you left the socks out. You know what I mean? Yeah, like you left them out in the living room. So she's mad. So she's just looking for something to jab you with, and she just found a perfect opportunity. She's going to let you have it. Whereas a friend doesn't have that get up. They're not trying to hurt you or whatever. But yeah, again, in most cases, when a woman is telling me stuff, because I heard this too. So I had a buddy of mine. He was talking to a female coworker, and the coworker said, "Why do we always have to tell you? Why can't you just figure it out?" Her example was, she was dating a guy, and she was telling him about her financial woes. So she's like, yeah, I'm having financial trouble, blah, 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 blah. And her whole thing is, why do I have to ask that I need help financially? And it's like, well, why wouldn't you want to ask?
Yeah.
Like, she felt like we should have been intuitive
and just taking care of the financial part,
and just understand that what she's trying to say is that she needs help. And men cannot read minds. We just can't. Trust me, we'd be in a better place if we did. And that's why I say, for men, we compartmentalize. So when I'm at work, I know I'm at work, right? I know the job that I have to do. When I'm at home, I'm at home. And I know the job that I'm doing, when I'm at a movie, social, we compartmentalize everything. So when you tell me, I just need you to listen to me. I really just need your emotional support. Cool. I got that hat on. I got that mindset. That's what I'm here. If you say, hey, babe, the drain is clogged. cool. I know exactly what to do, right? And she needs my help. She needs me to do something, fix it. That's how we work.
Yeah.
But if you kind of beat around the bush, it's like, yeah, the other day I was washing and it clogged, and then, I went over here and then it clogged again.
Well, maybe if that girl had a guy friend, she could say that same thing to him and be like, why isn't my boyfriend doing anything about it? And he could give her that advice of men don't think like that.
He could be like, hey, you just need to ask. We'll get there.
Yeah. I just have one more point that I wanted to bring up. And I know this is going to be like an unpopular thing to say, but women will have friends that the whole purpose of having that friend is just to flirt with them and nothing more. Like, I'm wondering, I'm sure that some guys have that, but like, I feel like every girl at some point in her life will have certain male friends that you do like to hang out with them and you're friends, but maybe you like to flirt with them, but you don't want to do anything more than that. Like, it's just going to stop there. But the flirting feels good because it's kind of like, you're not doing anything wrong, even if you're in a relationship, but like, do guys like to have at least one woman around that it's just that and will never, and you don't want it to be anymore?
I mean, this is kind of how I feel about that. I've had those relationships in the past, right? I would say that only works when I am mildly attracted to them.
Right. Yeah, of course. I mean, that's what I'm saying. It wouldn't be a super hot.
Right.
No.
But that's the boundary that you have to establish early on. It's like, if you are attracted, like truly attracted to them, don't start that.
No, I know. The girls that I'm talking about, like when we do it, it's someone that we're not really physically attracted to, but maybe you really like their personality or whatever, but you don't want to pursue anything.
Right.
You can still flirt with someone even if you don't actually want to be intimate with them. Yeah. Like, it's just purely innocent.
Yeah.
But for guys, I think you have to be more careful.
That's what I'm saying. That's why for guys, you can only have that relationship with a woman if you're mildly attracted to them. And only if you're mildly attracted to them.
What if you're not attracted to them at all? Could you still flirt with them? Okay.
I'm sorry to be so blunt. But no, you can't do that because when you flirt with somebody,
it's natural.
It is natural, but if you can't flirt with somebody that you're not attracted to at all. I mean, because, you just can't.
But I mean, like, physically, let's say you're attracted to the person. So, but that's what I'm saying. Like, for a guy, when you say mildly attractive, are you talking about to their personality? Or are you talking about mildly attracted to them physically?
No, physically.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. For women, we can, even if I don't find you physically attractive, but maybe you have a really fun personality.
Right.
And I like to flirt with that just because it's fun to flirt and whatever. Yeah. But that's what I'm saying for guys. So you can be moderately attracted to someone and it not go anywhere.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it would have to do with the personality because, again, and not only that, but here's the thing about the flirting part. They will not reciprocate. And if they do, it's in a gentle letdown. You know what I mean? Like when you're it's not like you're saying, hey, hot stuff. And she's like, hey, what's going on, baby? I mean, and
what's up, beefcake?
And you can, but sometimes it's almost like the game that the relationship that I had, the game was I flirt with you very mildly, right? Not like super hard or anything like that. And you shoot me down just as easy, but not a hard shoot down. Right. It's like, oh, you're a player. I would never mess with somebody like you. Well, like, you know what I mean?
And or something you don't even have to sometimes say it, because I have an example of that. Like, there was a guy at my job at one point that, when he saw me every day, he'd be like, oh, good morning, beautiful. And it's a little flirtatious. Sure. My letdown was like, oh, good morning. And that's it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't have to say, oh, but it's like,
it's dangerous territory all the way around. Let's just put it that way. Yeah. This is, and I'm not saying whatever, but it is playing with fire to a certain degree. To a certain degree.
To a certain degree, yes. But I think it's okay if you have people that maybe you flirt with and there's no ever, it would never turn into anything more, and you both know it, but maybe you just kind of have that flirty friendship.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's possible.
Those are the best. Those are fun. It actually, for a guy, and this is just for a guy, I don't know if women look at it, we get to hone our skills. We really hone, because a lot of times being flirtatious doesn't always come natural. And if you haven't done it in a long time, it's going to come off as awkward. Or at least you're going to feel like it's awkward.
Yeah.
Whereas if you have that friend, it comes off more
Is that
naturally.
who you would practice with first, typically? Like when
Yeah.
you're a young man?
Yeah, I would definitely, because you get into the practice of flirting, it comes out more naturally.
Yeah.
Versus, and I'll give you an example. I got a buddy of mine, and we're the same age, but he goes around, and most females he will call honey or sweetheart or things like that. That doesn't come naturally to me, unless it's somebody that I'm intimate with.
Right.
That comes naturally then, but just a
But
stranger.
is he doing it in a flirtatious mindset, though?
He's not, but the point that I'm trying to get at is that if I tried to do that, it
Yeah.
wouldn't come off as natural.
Yeah.
It would come off as awkward and
And
weird.
like you're, yeah.
Yeah, because I haven't done it very often.
Yeah.
So, but he does it so much that it's just a natural flow, and they don't take offense. Women do that too. They call people hun.
Yeah.
Hey, hun, and it's like, oh, okay, that's just what you do.
I was just gonna say, like, side note, like, I actually really like it when like older ladies say that to me, like, "Oh, hey, sweetheart," or something, like some kind of term of endearment. Like, it's really cute. Like,
Yeah,
it's
I
sweet.
mean, me personally, I don't particularly care for it, but I understand when people call me hun, and I have a coworker that calls me that, and I'm not too particularly wild about it, but she calls everybody that.
Yeah,
so
some
it's just
people
like,
just
what are you gonna do?
that's in their vernacular. So
Exactly.
But
So,
yeah, you got to be careful, and it is a thing, and I feel like most men go through it maybe at least once in their lifetime. So
Oh yeah, it's wow.
stay
Yeah.
away.
It's dangerous. I still think it's a bad idea all the way around, and
Yeah.
I would not. My younger son, he recently thought that would be he thought he was the first to think of it, and he was like, well, if I become her friend, then eventually she could see how good I am, and then eventually I was like, no, son, don't
Yeah.
don't do it, not even a little bit.
I wonder if all kids think that when they first start.
Yeah, because that's
they're
the
like,
easiest. And grown men think of it. They should know better. So, yeah. And they think it's something like if she could just see how wonderful I am. but again, it's whenever you start a friendship that's not genuine like that, because it's not. So you're going to be friends with that person mostly because you're going to adapt to them. So whatever they say, you're going to love. Oh, you like that? I love it too. No, you don't. But because your intention is to get in,
Yeah.
right? Whereas if you're establishing a friendship and somebody says, "Oh, I like that," and I'm like, "Ooh, no, that's horrible. I can't believe that's gross. You're sick." Like again, you start laughing, and it's like you don't have to agree with them because you're starting out as friends. Now, again, if they're jerks, you don't want to hang out with them, but the intention is that like we're hanging out. This is who I am. That's who you are. Cool. We're establishing that. Friends don't have to agree on everything, and
Yeah.
most times don't. So, anyways.
Yeah.
Good conversation.
Yay. Beware.
All right. So I learned quite a bit today. Do not go into the friend zone. It's a bad idea. And if you have a partner, talk to them.
Yes.
All right. Till next time.
Bye.
All right. Bye.